Hello everybody, welcome to the first episode of the Pondering Powers series, where today we're going to be taking a look at the 8 gates. We're going to be asking, what are the 8 gates, how do they work, and how would they be used by someone with actual chakra control? So, let's drop our ankle weights, get ready to throw some hands, and dive into this. So what are the 8 gates? Well, the 8 gates are gates placed on the chakra stream of the body that limits the chakra output of the human body. Obviously, there's 8 of them. There's the gate of opening, healing, life, pain, limit, view, wonder, and death. Opening each gate does something different to the human body, but more predominantly for this topic, it produces more and more chakra for the user to utilize. You don't need to be an absolute giga-brained JoJo protagonist to realize that more chakra means more energy for more jutsus. And I think that is an important thing we need to talk about because we don't actually see real jutsu users using the 8 gates. I think that one of the biggest hangups when it comes to the 8 gates is the amount of damage it does to the human body. But the exchange for the power you receive is actually pretty substantial. Now, there's a common belief I've seen tossed around online where people talk about how it seems like the 8 gates already had moves and crap prepared when Guy whipped it out against Madara. Frankly, I don't believe that to be the case because if you look at all the stuff used by Might Guy and Rock Lee that we've seen using the 8 gates, they're all just generic punches and kicks that are simply amplified by the power of the 8 gates. A Sakujaku is just a straight up boxing technique. Primary Lotus is a freaking pile driver. Even the Night Guy, which is one of my favorite techniques in all of Naruto, is just a super powered kick. I think that if we actually take the idea that you train just regular base moves and then let the 8 gates amplify the crap out of them when you use it, we have a huge leaping point with what it could possibly do to some of these jutsus. We saw with the 8 gates in the final one, the Gate of Death, Might Guy was moving so fast that he bent the space in front of him to shoot forward even faster. Imagine what you could do if you had that kind of power behind a freaking Rasengan, or a Chidori, or any sort of jutsu that requires chakra control at all. It is genuinely incredible to think about what you could pull off with that. So this next part is going to sound pretty headcanon-y, but we're going to talk about some jutsus that I feel like could be amplified by it. And let's talk about the 100 healing jutsus first of all. If for anyone who doesn't remember, it's that little gem thing that manifested on Sakura's forehead during the 4th Ninja War. Apparently, it allows the user to constantly regenerate and constantly heal their body and whatnot, to the point where Tsunade got stabbed by 2 Susanoo swords and was able to keep going. Now, this is purely theoretical, because I don't know if this has ever been stated before or not, but if you take the chakra amplification of the 8 gate and apply it to that, I genuinely think that could probably counter the damage that the 8 gates are doing to your body. Although, that is just a theory. Once again, I don't think there's anything closely stating that, but I think it would be an interesting thing to see in the future if we ever get a chance to. Another thing too, let's talk about clones, because clones are kind of a big deal in Naruto. And Naruto alone can make thousands of clones by himself. Remove the restrictors on his chakra and he could probably make tens of thousands of clones. Naruto could probably single-handedly win the Shinobi War if he had access to even up to maybe the 6th or 7th gate, let alone the 8th gate. And then you also got to factor in too, the clones, as were shown by the Byakugan, have the same chakra flow network as the regular bodies, meaning that the clones also probably have 8 gates on them and could easily pop the 8 gates, and then you have roughly 10,000 shadow clones from Naruto running you down with the 8 gates, wielding gigantic fucking planet-sized Rasengans. Or, if you're doing it with Sasuke, fucking Chidoris with, like, I don't know, a massive amount of power behind it. A gigantic Chidori that destroys, like, fucking planets. That is literally, like, the level of power we could be looking at with the 8 gates, and I think that's probably why Kishimoto restricted it just to taijutsu users, even if it was an unconscious thing to do. Maybe he didn't do it on purpose, but at the bare minimum, thinking about hypothetically all of the jutsus that could be affected by that, like if Might Guy in the 8 gates can run fast enough to bend space to kick your ass, literally, imagine the speed that Naruto would have in an 8 gates Kurama cloak with a Rasengan. You would literally be hit before your brain could probably process that it was just hit. This is probably why a lot of people don't touch this idea, because the sheer amount of power put into the 8 gates genuinely could absolutely destroy the Naruto power scaling if anyone who wasn't a taijutsu user had access to it. Honestly, there isn't much else I can really say about this, because we could dive into speculation on all the different jutsus that would be affected and whatnot, but ultimately the only other thing in Naruto I would want to speak on would be the Sage Mode, and Sage Mode, given that it affects natural energy and is held by maintaining a flow of natural energy through your body, wouldn't ultimately be affected by the 8 gates. Sure, you would obviously receive the massive benefits of the physical elements of the 8 gates, but ultimately your regular jutsus and whatnot would be benefiting more from just using the Sage Mode chakra than your baseline chakra, because natural energy in Naruto is stated to be stronger than baseline chakra, so there's not much to really dissect with that perspective. I guess you could also look at how it would affect like Susanos and whatnot, but we already saw like Susanos can become enhanced by other things when Sasuke took on the chakra of the all other of the 8-tailed beast to go up against Naruto. So in theory you could use the 8 gates with a Susanoo and it would take on like an alternate form or something maybe, but ultimately I don't really feel like if you're using a Susanoo, I don't know why you would need the 8 gates. So there isn't much else I can really dive into with this, unless we just wanted to go through a list of jutsus in Naruto and speculate how each one would be affected. So I think that's where we're going to have to end this episode off. This is a pretty short one, but honestly that was kind of why I wanted this to be the first episode. I want to cut my teeth into this idea a little bit further, a little bit better, and I ultimately feel like we can dive a little bit further into some of the other topics. I have a great idea for what I want the next one to be, but guys, we'll just have to wait for that. I will see you guys in the next video.